morning. Welcome back. Welcome back. I'm so excited that we have our resident therapist with us this morning to give us all a dose of the therapy we all so badly need, I think. Sheri Ryland with us once again to do therapy with Sheri. Hey, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you.
So
Thank
nice
you.
to have
I'm
you
so
with
happy to
us.
be back.
Oh my
So
gosh.
much
And I
fun.
think we need you so much.
Oh, I think a lot of people do right now. Mental health is really very important right now, more so I think than a lot of times. But yeah.
Absolutely. And we are just tumbling into two big holidays that often cause us a lot of mental health stress.
Absolutely.
And then we're coming off something that was very polarizing in our country, and people have a lot of feelings about that.
Yes, they do.
And so I wondered if you'd just start with us today and let's talk about, some of the things people are going through right now,
Okay.
what the mental health challenges are from what we've just been through and headed into the holidays.
Okay. All right. So we have this idea that our family, well, what I want to talk about today is the idea that families, when we look at movies, and how many movies do you see where people don't want to go home for the holidays? Or the show is called Home for the Holidays and everybody's dreading it, right? So the idea of going home for Thanksgiving, what are the conversations that are going to be at the table, especially coming off of an election cycle and all the feelings that are coming out after that. Trying to not speak politics is going to be really hard for a lot of people, as a lot of people are either devastated or excited. So it's like you said, very polarizing. So if you've been somebody who's been in therapy and you're wanting to now go home and show everybody that you have all these great boundaries, yeah, that's great, right? But it might be hard for mom to now not trip over your boundaries, or you're feeling that you have to tell her what your boundaries are. Because really, boundaries are something that we set for ourselves, right? They're within us, as opposed to I have to tell you, don't speak to me that way, right? We've gotten in a trend where we have to tell everybody what we need from them and that what is not okay about when they're talking. But again, how many times, Teresa, have you been at an event where you had to tell somebody not to speak to you a certain way and it stayed civil?
No, it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way,
It
right?
absolutely doesn't.
So if you're walking in and mom is telling you for the third time that, wow, have you been eating the right thing? I'm not sure about that dress you're wearing, or you want to you're ready to walk in and you're ready for a fight. But your therapist has said, just go in. You need to let people know how you feel. No, don't listen to that therapist, right? Because that's going to be a terrible, terrible holiday, right? So learning your boundaries. So the boundaries are that just because I learned that I can only control myself and I can't control others, they might not have learned that. Most likely they haven't, right? So it's their job as your parent, they believe, to tell you about how terrible you look in that dress, or how much weight you've gained, or why aren't you taking this medicine, or how dare you take that medicine, right? All those things that we come across as or we come upon in a family dynamic. It's for you to say, okay, I'm going to get up and go get a drink of water. We're not trying to start avoidance, but we're trying to say, look, I need to hold my boundaries, because I know the minute that, let's say, my dad or my brother looks at me a certain way, that I'm immediately triggered. I immediately go back to being 5 years old and I just want to fight. So if my boundary is that I'm not going to engage in that, but my body is telling me, we're going down, right? We're going down. There's going to be a fight here, right? So my boundary is saying, okay, I'm not going to let that get to me, because I know they don't know any better. It's not a time to teach anybody. It's not a teachable moment. You're not going to go home at Thanksgiving and teach your dad or mom how to behave. It's just not going to happen, right? If they haven't figured it out by now, and their therapist hasn't, or they haven't seen a therapist, or they're not working on themselves, you home for maybe 72 hours is not going to change them.
Right. And I've even heard you talk before about, hard thing, and perhaps with some parents and kids, and I don't mean just college age and 20s, I mean 40s, 50s kids going home, right?
Yes.
But I've heard you say, maybe this is a time to explore, do you want to stay at home with your parents or with your family or your sister or whatever?
Right.
Can you afford maybe to get a hotel so that you can say, hey, I'm just going to take a minute. I'm going to go to my hotel, do a few things. So
Right.
you have a timeout space for your own mental health,
Right.
just to breathe. Because when you can take a minute,
Yes.
get back in your space and in the way you
Right.
feel and kind of get your strength back with you, makes it so much easier than being 100% present for the time that you're home at the
Right, because
holidays.
we want to be mindful, but we can't be 100% present in a feeling of being in discomfort, right? If I want to punch you, I'm
Right,
not feeling comfortable, right?
right.
I'm feeling like I want to fight, right?
Yeah.
So if I feel like I want to fight, then I'm less likely to have a good conversation. I'm going to be stressed the whole time. Now I'm going to be sick because
Hmm.
what I eat. I'm either overeat or not eat enough, which brings on another conversation from mom, like, why aren't you eating?
Right.
But I love the idea of being able to have another space. I mean, some families, that's a huge
Hmm.
no-no.
Right.
You have offended them greatly by not wanting
Right.
to stay in their home. But that's where you get to test your ability to hold your boundaries. You know what? I appreciate you wanted me to stay there, um, but I need to be able to go to bed at a certain hour. Whatever reason that is comfortable for you to say. It's not lying. It's true. It's like
Hmm.
you can't put all your effort in one place. I'm snoring lately. Whatever it is going to keep you in a space where you can walk away because we can all handle an hour for dinner or a couple hours here and there. But when you have to stay the night and you have to do all those things, a lot of anger and resentment of past things starts to come out.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that, and it's a conversation that's bigger than just going home for the holidays.
Exactly.
Um, how do you know, like when you walk in the door and maybe your aunt says something about, oh wow, you're looking a little hippie there, or
Uh-huh.
whatever. How do you know if you're reacting to something that's happening in the moment, or are you that 5 or 8 year old kid who was climbing an uphill battle with a mother, a father, a brother, whatever it
Yeah.
was? How do we know within ourselves what we're reacting to?
Well, that's where you just check into the physical responses of that. Like when you're walking to the door, do you already feel like you're 5 years old? Just seeing the front door, if you're walking back to your childhood home and you feel that when you walk in, you know that that's time for you to take a breath, for you to say, okay, I'm not 5 years old anymore. Really take inventory of what you're feeling,
Hmm.
paying attention to your body. Our physical body doesn't usually lie to us. It's
Right.
the thoughts that come in and the emotions that take over that says, I have to run or I need to fight. It's my job to teach that man how to talk, right? So when you walk in, the most important thing is before you walk in to get that clear in your mind.
So do you have, I mean, I know this is silly because there are no tools that are immediate, I suppose, but
Yeah.
is can you give our viewers any tools like that are kind of in the moment? Like you said, do an inventory.
Right.
What are you feeling and where's the feeling coming from? And then what do you do with it?
Well, usually by the time you've done that, you've stopped yourself enough to have that clarity of, okay, my dad acts like he's 10 years old or my dad acts like a bully and I already know that. So it's not that I'm going to avoid him. I just know there's certain things I'm not going to bring up. So we're having a discussion with yourself of saying, okay, I'm able to bring myself down by taking a breath, recognizing that this is not about what's actually happening because I haven't even walked in the house yet, right?
Hmm.
So if once I've walked in, I'm able to say, okay, I'm only going to respond to the comment at hand. And sometimes that's hard too, right? Because if the comment's ugly and it takes you back to five
Hmm.
years old, then your reaction is going to be that of a 5-year-old. Yeah.
Yeah.
So figuring out how to say to yourself, Sheri, you're not 5, right? Take a breath. I want to enjoy myself, right? So if responding back to dad or brother or whoever is going to be worse than just saying, hey, nice to see you. I'm going to go get a drink of water, so kind of navigating that space, knowing that you can.
Yeah. I remember not having a lot of tools to work with
Mm-hmm.
and not understanding what was going on with me, but maybe, college years, and realizing that the closer I would get to home, just it was like this grayness started coming over me.
Right.
And I was getting angrier and angrier. I didn't express anger very well, so it turned into just quiet sadness.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know at the time. I didn't have
Right.
I hadn't had any therapy. I didn't know, oh my gosh, I'm reacting to something that happened just a really long time ago.
Right. Because your body's taking you back there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I just wondered how we can flip out of that for those 72 hours we're home.
Well, that's where, like you get yourself into another way of thinking, right? So if you play something funny on the way there, plan something that's a little different, maybe not go straight to the house, something that.
I love that.
Finding a new tradition, because traditions themselves are stressful because, we have to do it this way, right? So if you're able to say, that part of your boundaries is I'm not going to do the tradition exactly the same by like staying somewhere else or adding something. If you're bringing family with you, like your kids or a spouse, finding your own way to make that area different for you, finding a new tradition for yourselves or new fun thing. Because when we're in that, we're less likely to go back to the other. Like a good roaring belly laugh, to me, is the best way to get through anything. So if in your mind you can replay a video or some meme or something that every time you see it, you want to laugh, like you just can't not laugh at it,
right?
Replaying that in your mind. So having some images in your mind planned before you go there, and to me, that's the best way, because otherwise that whole negative vibe just follows you like a cloud.
Yeah.
So.
Gosh, holidays are hard, right?
Yes.
They are hard, and they're not meant to be. It's not set up to be that. And we do have all this expectation around it.
Right. Well, I think they are actually meant to be, because we have expectations. And when we have expectations that so-and-so is either going to behave or not behave, then that's the outcome we've already set out. So we, as family, anybody that you're related to by blood, there's this string. There has to be some biological reason for this, that some people, if you saw your mother on the street, you'd never be friends with her, or your brother or whoever, right?
I got to stop on that one. You saw your mother on the street, you'd never be friends with her. Wow.
Right? Okay. Or you were in a coffee shop with her. Would you want to have a conversation if you didn't have to? Okay.
Oh my gosh.
So,
I've never thought about it like that.
Right? So, I mean, how many times do people go back to things and they're like, these people I would never know. I would never want to know otherwise. I'm forced to because of this string that pulled me here. So again, trying to find a connection to that area or the family in a different way, finding a different connection that you're responding to versus I have to be here. And you don't have to be anywhere. And I think that's the guilt string that we bring, that if I don't if I don't fly to the other side of the country to go to a holiday that's one day, and I only have that one day off of work, everybody's going to hate me. Well, okay, if that's what it took for your family to hate you, then maybe there's a lot more problems than we realize, right? So it's okay to say, you know what, I'm celebrating at home this year, or I'm not going to celebrate at all. Right. One of my colleagues, that's what she says all the time, right? She's just going to stay home with her dog, and they get Chinese food or they get something that's different. So you don't have to go into a toxic situation. And that's another big buzzword, like, what does that, to me, what does that mean? Like everybody says, not everybody's toxic, Sheri. Well, some people really are, but the idea is when you present one way and then you change to another way, or using emotions against people, their fear for you against them, that's toxic. Yeah. So if going home is going to set you back in therapy months or set you back, it's okay to not go.
Which there are sometimes consequences to that.
Of course, there's consequences to everything.
You know, what's the pay? What am I going to have to pay forward with my family if I choose not to go home?
All right, so after all of that, the point is that you don't have to go home if you don't want to. There's consequences for what you say at the dinner table, good or bad, right? So thinking of that, you can open your mouth and say what you want, but remember there's going to be consequences. Also, that you can stay somewhere else. You don't have to stay. We don't have to continue the same traditions, and hold your boundaries. Know what they are, giving yourself something to be able to walk away and feel good about it. To me, that's the way you survive holidays.
That's amazing and so helpful. Thank you all for being with us. We absolutely adore Sheri, and she's giving us the tools to hopefully have a very happy holiday. Thank you.